You are 29, standing in the break room at work, with a paper cup of coffee cooling in your hand, watching a retirement calculator load on your phone. The office is quiet because everyone else has gone home. The cleaning crew is moving through the hallway. Your screen asks when you want to retire. You type 65 because that is the number people type when they do not know what else to type. The calculator asks how much you have saved. You enter the amount, then lower it because you accidentally included money that is technically in your checking account and emotionally already belongs to rent. The result appears in green. You are behind, not ruined, not hopeless, just behind enough to feel personally criticized by a website. So you increase your contribution. The decision takes less than a minute. A few more dollars from every paycheck. Nothing dramatic. You will barely notice it. That is what the app says, and the app has charts. So clearly it has never lied to anyone. For the next few months, the money disappears before it reaches you. Your paycheck arrives already thinner, like someone opened it on the way over and took the responsible part. You adjust. You bring lunch from home more often. You cancel one subscription, then forget which one. So another subscription survives by looking innocent. You skip a weekend trip because the hotel seems expensive and the market has been unpredictable. You tell yourself there will be other trips. The retirement account grows, slowly but visibly. Every time the number increases, you feel a small wave of relief. Not happiness exactly, more like evidence that you are not wasting your life. At 31, you get a raise. Your manager delivers the news in a meeting room with a glass wall and a dying plant. The raise sounds impressive before taxes. After taxes, insurance and the contribution increase you immediately schedule. It becomes enough to cover the rent increase your landlord announces 2 weeks later. Still, you are proud. You are earning more, saving more, moving forward. This is what adulthood is supposed to look like when viewed from a spreadsheet. Your apartment gets slightly better. The couch is no longer something you found online from a person who wrote, "must go today" in all caps. You replace the old television. You buy a coffee machine that requires maintenance, accessories, and a small emotional commitment. Delivery food becomes less of an emergency and more of a routine. Your income rises, but your life quietly rises to meet it. Nothing feels reckless. That is what makes it difficult to notice. Reckless spending makes a story. Normal spending creates a lifestyle. By 34, you know your monthly expenses so well that you can feel them before they arrive. Rent, insurance, utilities, car payment, phone, groceries, subscriptions. The gym membership you use just often enough to prevent cancellation. Every charge has a reason. Together, they have your paycheck surrounded. Then the car makes a sound. It is not a dramatic sound. The car does not explode. Smoke does not pour from the hood. It simply develops a small metallic rattle that becomes louder whenever you try to ignore it. The mechanic gives you an estimate. You stare at the number, then open your retirement account for no practical reason. The balance is larger than the repair bill, much larger. For a moment, this feels comforting. Then you remember you cannot use that money without consequences. The money is yours, but not really yours. It belongs to a future version of you who has stronger legal protection than your current transmission. You put the repair on a credit card. The following month, the dentist finds something expensive. The month after that, the refrigerator stops cooling properly and begins making a noise that suggests it is considering retirement too. You do not reduce your contribution. That would feel like failure. Instead, you make the minimum payment on the card and keep saving for the future while the present starts charging interest. This arrangement makes no sense when spoken out loud, so you do not speak it out loud. At 36, your retirement balance reaches 6 figures. You are sitting in the parking lot outside a grocery store when the notification appears. The app releases digital confetti across the screen. You have crossed an important milestone. For a few seconds, you smile. Then you walk inside and spend 10 minutes comparing the price per ounce of laundry detergent. The milestone changes nothing about the afternoon. You still put the expensive berries back. You still check your bank balance before paying. You still feel a small tightening in your chest when the total appears. You have more money than you have ever had. You also feel less able to touch it than ever before. The biggest retirement lie is beginning to work exactly as designed. It is not the lie that saving is pointless. It is the lie that every sacrifice made for later automatically becomes a better life later. The following years never arrive all at once. They accumulate in ordinary Tuesdays. You stop thinking about retirement every day because the contribution happens automatically now. The money leaves, the chart moves, the habit becomes invisible. Instead, you think about deadlines, traffic, grocery prices, and whether the strange pain in your shoulder is from sleeping wrong or sitting in the same office chair for 9 years. Your future keeps getting funded, while your present quietly negotiates with convenience. One Friday, a friend calls to tell you they bought tickets for a concert you used to talk about seeing together. The seats are good. The timing is perfect. The only problem is that the trip falls a few weeks after you paid for new tires, renewed your insurance, and watched your emergency fund shrink faster than expected. You tell yourself that responsible people sometimes have to say no. You hang up feeling mature for almost 5 minutes. Then you realize you are disappointed in a way that spreadsheets never measure. The retirement account grows another fraction of a percent that day. Your collection of memories does not. At 39, your company introduces a wellness program. There are webinars about burnout, meditation sessions during lunch, and weekly emails reminding everyone to protect their work-life balance. The emails usually arrive around 9 o'clock at night because that is when people finally have time to send them. You laugh the first time you notice the irony. The second time, you barely notice it. The office coffee gets better. The chairs become more ergonomic. Stress simply receives nicer furniture. Your retirement projections improve every year. Every annual statement contains words like excellent progress and strong trajectory. You should feel reassured, yet every improvement quietly moves the goalposts. Inflation changes the target. Healthcare estimates increase. Articles suggest saving more than you originally planned. The number that once represented freedom slowly transforms into the minimum amount required to stop worrying. You are chasing security, but security keeps updating itself. At 43, your parents ask if you can join them for a long weekend at a cabin they rented years ago when family schedules were easier to coordinate. You check your calendar before answering. 3 meetings, a product launch, quarterly reporting. You could technically go, but everything would become more complicated on Monday. You promise to visit another time. A month later, while organizing old files on your phone, you find photos from that same cabin taken almost 20 years earlier. In every picture, nobody is checking notifications. Nobody is discussing investment returns. Time looked slower because nobody was trying to optimize every minute of it. The strange part is that your life looks successful from the outside. You own a nicer home than your younger self imagined. The retirement balance has grown into a number that once seemed impossible. Friends ask how you became so disciplined. Younger coworkers admire your consistency. You smile and tell them habits matter. That answer is true. It is simply incomplete. Habits do not ask what they are quietly replacing. One evening, after another ordinary day at work, you sit in your driveway and remain there long after turning off the engine. Nothing terrible happened. Nothing wonderful happened either. The silence feels unfamiliar because every empty moment usually gets filled with a podcast, a video, or another article explaining how to retire earlier, invest smarter, or avoid financial mistakes. Instead, you simply sit there. The house lights reflect across the windshield exactly the way the office lights reflected years ago when this story began. You realize you spent decades preparing for a life you assumed would finally begin after work stopped. That is the retirement lie. Not that saving is unnecessary. Not that planning is foolish. The lie is believing life patiently waits behind a finish line. Money can buy options. It cannot refund postponed years. Your retirement account was never stealing your life. It was quietly doing the job you asked it to do. The question was never whether you were saving enough for the future. The question was whether, somewhere along the way, you accidentally convinced yourself that the present was only a down payment. You start the car again, not because you suddenly have every answer, but because tomorrow morning will look a lot like today. The paycheck will arrive. Bills will be paid. Investments will continue. The graph will climb one more fraction higher. And before you open that familiar app again, you catch your own reflection in the dark windshield for just a second longer than usual. For the first time, you wonder whether the person you have been saving for has been hoping you would remember the one who is still here. The years refuse to organize themselves into neat chapters. They arrive disguised as ordinary Mondays, unexpected expenses, quiet promotions, and birthdays that seem to happen closer together every time someone hangs another decoration in the office break room. Your retirement account continues growing in the background with impressive consistency, becoming one of the few parts of life that always behaves exactly as expected. Everything else remains stubbornly human. Friends move away, coworkers leave, new managers arrive with new priorities. Your parents' hair turns completely gray before you notice it happened. The apartment you once thought was temporary slowly fills with furniture chosen to last decades. And one afternoon it occurs to you that almost everything you own was purchased for the person you expected to become rather than the person already living there. You still save every month. You still check the app more often than you admit. Some years the market rewards your patience. Other years it punishes it for reasons nobody can explain without drawing complicated graphs on television. Eventually you stop reacting to every rise and every fall because you realize the graph has become strangely similar to the weather. It changes whether you worry about it or not. What never stops surprising you is how easily a single number on a screen can determine the mood of an otherwise beautiful day. You have driven home beneath spectacular sunsets while thinking only about a percentage loss. You have sat through family dinners with your phone hidden beneath the table because tomorrow's market opening somehow felt more urgent than the conversation happening in front of you. The money was supposed to buy peace of mind. Somehow, it had rented space inside your mind long before it bought any peace. The realization does not arrive during a financial crisis or after some dramatic event. It happens on a completely forgettable Wednesday. You leave work earlier than expected because the last meeting is canceled, and for the first time in months, there is nowhere you urgently need to be. Instead of driving straight home, you stop at a small park, simply because the parking lot is half empty and the weather is too good to waste indoors. People pass by without paying attention to the time. A teenager teaches his younger brother how to ride a bicycle. An older couple shares a sandwich on a bench while arguing about directions to a place neither of them seems interested in visiting. A man throws a tennis ball for a dog that is clearly happier than anyone checking stock prices that afternoon. You stay in the car for several minutes before getting out, not because anything extraordinary is happening, but because you suddenly realize how unfamiliar it feels to spend an hour that produces absolutely nothing. No promotion, no return, no measurable progress, just an hour that exists because you are alive to experience it. That memory stays with you far longer than you expect. It is not the happiest day of your life, nor the most important, yet it quietly changes the way you look at all the days that follow. You continue saving because the future still matters, but you stop treating the present like a temporary inconvenience on the way to something more meaningful. Some weekends are no longer automatically sacrificed to overtime. Some invitations are accepted before your financial calculator has the chance to object. You still think about retirement, but it slowly loses its status as the moment when life is finally allowed to begin. It becomes what it should have been all along. Another stage of life, not the permission slip for living the rest of it. When retirement finally arrives decades later, it looks almost exactly as you imagined. There's a farewell speech, a cake that is sweeter than it needs to be, a cardboard box filled with things that somehow followed you from desk to desk over the years, and a long line of coworkers promising to keep in touch. As you walk through the parking lot carrying that box, you notice the same office windows reflecting across your windshield that stared back at you years earlier, when you sat in this very spot wondering whether you were saving enough. Back then, you believed your future depended entirely on the number inside an app. Standing there now, you understand that the balance was only ever one part of the story. The account protected your retirement. It was the ordinary afternoons, imperfect vacations, spontaneous phone calls, and completely unproductive hours that protected your life. You start the engine, drive away from the building for the last time, and realize the years you remember most clearly were never the ones when your portfolio performed the best. They were the ones when you stopped waiting for life to begin.